Okay, everybody, this is Ken Newhouse, host of the Get Clients Now podcast. And with me today is somebody that I hold very, very dear to my heart, somebody who's helped me a tremendous amount in business. One of my very first superstar guests on my podcast. And as I just told Robbie, I was kind of nervous. I mean, the first time, the podcasting thing was not brand new to me at the time, but it was relatively new. But Robbie, on behalf of myself and the members of the Get Clients Now Nation, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Yep.
Having me back.
Yeah, we covered your bio. Well, when you're putting out the content, you're putting out books like you are, and you're delivering so much value, I have to have people on like you as often as I can. The problem is there aren't a whole lot of people like you. I mean, the work you put out is legendary, and I don't say that lightly, but it is legendary. And guys, before we get started, I don't do this often. I do it, sometimes I'll do it in spurts depending on the people I have on, but I'm going to do this before we get started. Robbie's book is so good, and actually I'll do this with either one of her books. The book we're going to talk about today, The Forever Transaction, has not been released yet. It's getting ready to be released. I've had the good fortune of not only buying a copy pre-release, but I've been given a copy to read, obviously, for this interview. But you're going to buy this book, and it's going to help you tremendously, not only to integrate the Forever Transaction into your business, membership or subscription based, depending, and you'll learn more about that today. You're going to feel like that was one of the best books, if not one of the best books you've ever invested in for your business, or the membership economy, either book. You'll be able to say that. And if you can't, email me at customerservice@kennewhouse.com. I will buy the book from you. I don't want the book because I have copies, but I'm guaranteeing her book. It's that good. Both books, The Membership Economy, which was the first book, and then the one we're going to talk about today mostly is The Forever Transaction. Robbie, this is like a manual. This is literally like you're walking someone through every step they need to take to integrate all these steps and integrate all these steps and get this into their business. And I want to talk about that in just a bit. But if you could give us a little backstory about the membership economy. Some people may not know about that book. I think most people probably do, but for the people who don't, and then segue right into that, from that into the Forever Transaction, so we can kind of get an idea of why so many people love your work and why you've helped so many people make tons and tons of money.
Well, thank you for the really nice introduction. It's fun being back on the show and reflecting on kind of where we've been and how we got here. I wrote The Membership Economy 5 years ago after working primarily with subscription businesses for the prior 10 years. So, flash all the way back to 2002, which I remember because I was pregnant with my third child, Nate. I was consulting at Netflix and really captivated by their business model and the recurring revenue and all the pieces that went with it. It's not just about the pricing, it's about the way you package value, the way you serve your customers, the way you think about them as members. And I really fell in love with the business model. And at the same time, a lot of other people were trying to be like Netflix. And so, first it was very organic. Lots of other companies started asking me, hey, can you help us? We want to be more like Netflix. And then I just really focused my business and my learning on best practices for this kind of business, which I came to call membership economy businesses, deliberately not calling it subscription economy, because for me, subscription's the starting point. It's a tactic. But membership is the mindset that the organization has for the people they serve. And that's where the magic is. It's not in just slapping a price model over what you've always done. And so I was really excited about this. I wanted to share it with people. And a lot of times people would say, this isn't relevant for us. We don't need subscription. That's not going to work for us. I don't get it. And that's why I wrote Membership Economy 5 years ago, was to say, okay, here's the whole concept. Here's how all the pieces fit together. Here's how it could work in your industry. Here's how it works in lots of industries: big, small, fast moving, slow moving, family run, venture backed. And it was really kind of like my 1 pound business card to say, this is what I believe. And if this makes sense to you, maybe we can work together. And, now we're 5 years later and everybody and his mother is doing subscription, right? Every business, there's subscriptions for everything from dog food to software to heavy equipment to insurance. It's everybody's trying it and having varying degrees of success and at varying degrees of maturity. And now they're running into the challenges of building out that full model. And so that's why I wrote the Forever Transaction, really as you said, as a guide to help practitioners in the trenches wherever they are. So this book is divided into launch for people just getting started. That's as a solopreneur, a small business, or even if you're in a big company and you're an intrapreneur trying to do subscriptions, off to the side while the rest of the company is doing business as usual. Then I have the second section, which is all about scaling and what kind of infrastructure you need, what kind of metrics you need, what kind of culture you need. And then the last section is really devoted to companies and organizations that have been doing membership for a while, that may already have a well-running subscription business, about how to avoid the pitfalls of complacency and how to keep your eyes out on the horizon as well as at the work that's right in front of you. And so that's really, it took me a long time to write this book, because every time I sat down to write the new book, I kept going back and rewriting what was in the first book. And so it took me a while to really, figure out what would actually be useful, both for somebody just getting into this for the first time and to somebody who had already read the membership economy. So it's totally new and totally different from the membership economy. But if that book was helpful to you, this book will be really helpful.
Well, there's no doubt about it. It will be. One of the first things, and forgive me for chiding you slightly, and you probably don't have any control over this, but you didn't price the book. You priced it too cheaply for the value.
That's not me. That's McGraw-Hill.
I know. So get on the phone with the McGraw-Hill's Boys Brothers band and let those guys know that they underpriced for the book, but they know what they're doing. I don't. But just the value. I mean, if you think about the value that's in this book, it is. It's not even worthy to be compared with. I mean, this is pennies for a couple of cups of Starbucks coffee. You can transform your business, transform your life. It's that good. A lot of times you read a book and it's got great information, but it doesn't show you what to do step by step by step. This one does. It's literally like you're grabbing people by the hand and saying, "This is what works. These are the steps you take. 1, 2, 3. Okay, move on to the next process." And not many books are able to do that, but you've done a really good job with it. But let's do this. I want to ask you regarding like business transactions and how people are doing business. What would you say are the biggest things that have changed since you kind of created this whole movement with the membership economy, and now we're at the point of the Forever Transaction, the new book? What have you noticed like the biggest things that have changed since then?
Well, there's some good news and there's some bad news, Ken. The good news is consumers, businesses understand subscription price and expect it now. 5 years ago, 8 years ago, people didn't even understand. They're like, I don't want to give my credit card, or our company's not really set up to pay on a monthly or annual basis. We kind of just want to pay the whole thing up front. Today, everybody gets it. Everybody's ready to pay subscription. So that's good. Second thing that's good is there's all kinds of supporting services for subscription businesses. There's all kinds of software, and there's a lot of professional services providers who can help you set up your subscription infrastructure. The bad news is kind of the flip side of this, which is there's so many subscriptions and a lot of them are really bad. And so customers are weary. They're tired of subscriptions and they're picky. And we kind of have this epidemic of subscription fatigue right now. And so I think that's the bad news, is if you're just entering a subscription business right now, people are going to be a little cynical. They're going to think that you're forcing them to pay when they just want to buy it outright. They're going to ask you, why do I need to subscribe when I could just buy it or just use it when I need it and pay as I go? So you really, more than ever, have to have that complete model when you go to market, and not just slap the subscription pricing on whatever it is you happen to have lying around the office.
Which is another reason to buy the book, because you walk people through the exact process so they can avoid the things. And that was actually going to be one of my later questions. What is subscription fatigue? But I think you kind of nailed it. And so to avoid that and work around it and overcome that, when people throw up objections, so to speak. She's going to, again, walk you through the process in the book so you can just fly right through it. You get past that. You know, we all have this built in, I think it's in our DNA, this sales prevention thing in our brains. It's in our conscious brains, where we, like, anytime someone tries to sell us anything, even if it's something that's going to benefit us, something we even want, that alarm bell rings in our brain and says, hold on a minute, they're trying to sell you something. And like I said, even if you're looking to buy it. And so you're going to encounter these people who literally are suffering from subscription fatigue. But again, Robbie walks you through it in the book. You'll be able to breeze right past that. Robbie, when we talk about lots of business owners, and I work with a lot of dentists, chiropractors, you know, coaches and consultants. And for a while, it was a bit of a struggle for me to get dentists, not so much the chiropractors, because I implemented a membership back in my practice when I was still practicing. I haven't practiced since 2005, but I implemented that back like in 1999 out of necessity, because it was the only thing I could come up with. We were doing a lot of prepayments. People prepaid me. I went cash because I saw the writing on the wall. Insurance was getting worse and worse and worse as far as the reimbursement that people had. And so I'm like, okay, well, and I remember all my friends said, you're going to go broke, you're going to go bankrupt. You'll never be able to survive and make it in practice by going 100% cash. And you know what? Complete opposite. I made more money than I'd ever made. I thrived. I loved it. I wish I would have had, like I said, the first time we talked on our first interview, I would have made so much more money had I had your book, but your book wasn't written then. So, but anyway, talking about businesses that people could look at as a commoditized business. So let's look at a dentist or a chiropractor, or even somebody selling a toothbrush. You mentioned that in the book, the toothbrush. But
you know, we Kellmans have a lot of flack, so it's important for me.
Well, you might actually get some proactive media or reaching direct marketing from some of the listeners here looking for new patients with everybody at home. But what would you say to those people who say, listen, I'm not sure if this is really for my type of business, right? How can the forever transaction model apply to their business? Let's just use dentists or a chiropractor, even a consultant for that matter. How is this applicable to their business? How can they benefit? They will benefit, but what are some of the ways they will benefit by incorporating this model into their business?
Yeah. So if you start any business where the customer has a long-term objective, which drives their need for your services or your products, and where that customer has alternatives other than you, is probably ripe for considering a membership model. So, you know, we'll talk about the dentist model. Nobody wants a teeth cleaning or a cavity filling. They want healthy teeth, right? And that's even what doctors always, dentists always talk about is, we want you to have a healthy smile. We want you to have a healthy mouth. But then you go in and it's not as much about that as it's about, come in for this treatment, come in for this checkup, come in for this process. What if you flip that on your head and you said, we're going to just be committed to making sure that your mouth is as healthy as possible, right? So it's like taking insurance one level further. And you talked about kind of moving to cash. Insurance should do this, right? That's the whole point of insurance, is to take away the worry from the patient so that you can just come in anytime and not worry about the meter running and the bill being run up. But what if you said, as a dentist, I'm going to just make sure that you're feeling good about your mouth. So come in anytime. And here's your fixed price each year. Very few people, most likely, would abuse it. Some people would come in earlier and not wait until their, problems were really acute. And the connection would be so much deeper. It would also give you more permission to proactively reach out and encourage and monitor their preventative maintenance, which gets better results for both sides, right? If I don't have to come in to my dentist, that's better for the dentist if he's getting paid already. And it's better for me because no offense to anybody listening, I don't particularly enjoy going to the dentist as much as I love Dr. Jollymore and his team. They're awesome people, but I'd rather, go out to lunch with them. So if you can build a model where your goals are aligned with the goals of your customer, which are, in this case, to have a healthy mouth and not have to come in, I'm willing to pay actually a lot more to not have to come in and have my mouth be healthy than to have to come in and have my mouth be healthy. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm going to just clarify something real quick, because we got a couple of different kinds of dentists. There are some dentists who really have this practice that's heavily entrenched in insurance. They don't really do much, if any, high value, high-end dental work. So they're not doing a
Hmm.
lot of cosmetic dentistry. They're more of a drill and fill, emergency extraction. This doesn't apply to you guys. So if you're listening to the show, all the more reason to transform your practice and start seeing more high value patients. For those people who are seeing high value patients, whether you're, a Pankey graduate, whether you're doing bio rejuvenation, doesn't matter what it is, you're doing much higher end service. The type of patient that this is going to appeal to, is the kind of person who values their time probably more than they view the money. And so they're going to be willing to pay and not rely so much on, well, my insurance only pays for 2 prophy visits or cleanings per year or whatever. This is going to really appeal to them much more. And something, Robbie, you said that I think is really important that the dental people need to really pay attention to, is this. You talked about deepening and strengthening the relationship. And by doing that, which this will, now you're in a better position to work on upselling the patient. By upsell, I mean taking them from just routine cleanings and routine, teeth whitening, whatever. And now you're in a much better position and you're going to get a lot greater buy-in, so to speak, from the patients when you start recommending cosmetic dentistry like veneers or biorejuvenation, whatever, full mouth, crowns, whatever it is. This is going to position you a lot better to be able to seamlessly move into those conversations with your patients and have a lot better response, a bigger buy-in from the patient because of the relationship that Robbie talked about, because of setting up this membership style format in your practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, those are great points. I'm glad you clarified. I think that, a couple things. One of them is absolutely, if you start focusing on your patients as members and you start focusing on your patients' long-term goals, which actually I think can work anywhere kind of on the pricing horizon. So if I don't have a lot of money, that doesn't mean I don't care about having a healthy mouth. It just means that, the bundle of services that are going to work for me are going to be different than
Right.
somebody who, let's say, is on TV all the time and really cares about the cosmetic piece as well as the health piece. But it's about understanding your audience, your community, and then providing them as much value as you can, which also takes you out of a product mindset. So a product mindset would be, okay, I'm going to do veneers. I'm going to upsell them to veneers, versus I want to deepen the relationship with them. I'm going to educate them on all of the ways that I know they care about the cosmetic piece. I'm going to educate them on that. And some of that might be through video, and some of that might be through email, and some of that might be through conversations when they're in the chair. And when they're ready, they'll have learned it all from me. I'm the natural person they'll come to because they trust me. And I think this is the most important thing, because I have earned their trust by being trustworthy.
Absolutely.
When time comes for a big decision, a big investment, I have a relationship. And so for people listening, that might involve thinking about what you do differently. Instead of saying, I have this product, whether that's, the veneers, the cleanings, the fillings, those are different products. You say, I'm in the service business of helping them achieve their goal. And these are some of the tactics I use. It just flips a switch a little bit, and opens up the possibilities for, more education, more consultation, being available. Like, how great to be able to just pick up the phone, just quick call your dentist and say, hey, I just want to ask you, my teeth are looking a little yellow, or my friend said something about veneers. Is that for me? To have that kind of open conversation and not worry that that's going to become a consultation and costs $90 and, raises my insurance rates or what have you.
Right. Okay. And so one of the things you mentioned in the book, Robbie, that really caught my attention, and actually it really shocked me, surprised me, it was early in the book, but you said that the average American is investing 237. And the reason I remember this and it stuck out at me is because that's the address where I grew up, 237 Sulphur Springs Road. My parents still live in that house. But you said that an average American is spending $237 a month on subscription-based and membership-based services. So if you could, what are some of the types of things that people are routinely investing in with subscription or membership?
Yeah. Gyms, newspapers, streaming content, music and video, uh, personal productivity software, home software.
My coaching group. I mean, that's a membership.
Right. Well, that's even getting onto the profession. I mean, you can have life coaching, but
Yeah.
professional business coaching, getting on the business side, if you run a home office, you probably have a Zoom account. You probably have you might be paying for your Evernote account. You probably have a pretty high
Microsoft
level
Office.
Microsoft Office 365,
Yep.
featured in the book, Office 365. They've thought a lot about subscription, a lot about membership. Adobe, if you're, for those creatives out there. So most software has moved to subscription.
Absolutely.
Most fitness has moved to subscription. A lot of it had always been kind of membership based. And then there's other things that are coming out of the woodwork. There's Dollar Shave Club. There's Stitch Fix for clothing. There's Fuzzy for your veterinarian services, telemedicine. There's so many now that there are actually companies popping up that only exist to help you manage your subscriptions, to track what you're spending and to help you cancel more quickly. I tried to cancel. This is kind of a true story. Physician heal thyself. I'm switching providers for my email, and I wanted to close my constant contact account. And turns out you can't close your account on the weekend because you have to call a person during normal business hours. But they still charge you on the weekend. So I wanted to cancel Friday at 3:00 California time, I think, which was already closed, or 4:00, whatever time it was. And on Saturday I tried to call and they were closed. And Sunday I was billed. So
even worse than that, and I won't mention the name of the service because I still use the service, and it's not MailChimp. MailChimp sponsors my show, but the fact that this other one, which I actually really like as well, I didn't realize, but you can't just call and cancel. You have to give a 10-day cancellation notice. And for them, again, you can't call on the weekend. You can't email them and tell them. You have to talk to a live person. And you have to tell them when you get in line to queue up to talk to a live person, you got to tell them what it's about. And so if you click that little thing that says, hey, I want to cancel my subscription or my service, then, and they've got a great product. Then from what I'm talking to people, and not many people have canceled, they're waiting forever and ever and ever, where normally you get help immediately. And so,
I had a 27-minute wait.
Yeah.
To cancel. I was on hold for 27 minutes, and every 3 minutes they said, they have some phrase like,
we appreciate your customer service or your whatever.
No, more than that. We appreciate your patience and can't wait to delight you with our excellent customer service. And I'm like, dude, if I've already been waiting for 15 minutes, the excellent customer service is out the window.
Within 2 minutes, man, 2 minutes
to cancel.
Absolutely. So Robbie, when you talk about the forever transaction, what's the difference between, we've used these words interchangeably, and to a degree, I guess we can, but is there a significant and meaningful difference between the word subscription and membership, and how does that relate to the forever transaction?
Yeah, absolutely. A subscription is a term that refers to a pricing structure where you pay on a regular basis in exchange for access to products or services. It's a pricing tactic. It's not a strategy. Membership is the mindset that's needed for that tactic to be effective.
Okay.
The forever transaction is that moment when your customer takes off a consumer hat, puts on a member hat, and stops looking for alternatives because they've decided that they can trust you to solve their problem on an ongoing basis or achieve that goal. So it's that moment when you erase the note in your calendar that says cancel on Tuesday, right? Free trial ends Tuesday, cancel Tuesday. I do that all the time. It's that moment when, you sign up, let's say for a new, like if I sign up for a new coaching service, I'm thinking, okay, I only want to sign up for a month or 3 months or whatever the minimum is, because I'm not sure it's going to work. I'm not sure I'm going to like them. I'm not sure they're going to be helpful. And then it's that day when they're like, oh, this is going to help me for a while. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to pay up front and get the better price for the next 9 months. I'm in. That's the moment of the forever transaction.
Awesome. Now that reminds me of something just real quick, and we're going to talk about it at the end of the show, but I want to remind people again, number one, I'm guaranteeing her book, The Forever Transaction, as well as The Membership Economy. But something else, another resource, Robbie, that you sent me, which I really appreciate you sending it to me. And actually you should be charging for that as well, but it's the Membership Manifesto. Tell us just quickly about that. This wasn't a planned question, but it just popped in my mind. And how do we get that? And then we're going to talk about it again at the end, and I'll put a link in the show notes. But very quickly, what is that and how do we get it?
Yeah, it's just a short white paper that I wrote that explains why membership is happening now, what it means for your customers, and some of the key principles that you can apply to take advantage of the power of the membership economy. And you can get it. I'll give you the link so people can access it.
Okay, so we'll put those in the show notes. Sweet. Okay, so one of the other things in the book that you mentioned, and I believe in this so much that it's incorporated in the tagline to my show, where the customer-centric business model is king. So what in the world is the customer-centric business model, and why is that such an important element? Why is that foundational to having a successful membership strategy within your business?
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what a customer-centric strategy is not, or what the other options are, because a lot of times people are like, well, we're all customer-centric. Here, you can be customer-centric, you can be product-centric, you can be sales-centric. Sales-centric, hit the number for the quarter, right? Very short-term mindset, very focused on tracking revenue, less concerned with exactly where that revenue comes from. So, Blockbuster got a lot of revenue from late fees, right? Doesn't matter. You're hitting your number. Credit, banks have overdraft, kind of overdraft charges. Doesn't matter. That's the first model. Second one, product centric, which is a lot of my clients, actually, honestly. This can be, the bicycle manufacturer that loves that, where everybody that works there is an engineer, a bike mechanic who loves their bikes. And they create these awesome bikes, but not necessarily for the people who want to buy the bike. So I might come in, I'm a mom, I have 3 kids. I might want to buy 5 bikes for our family, but I'm going to tell you what color I want them. I want, my daughter wants a basket and my son wants a flag and he needs it to be blue. And, those are not the things that the product team necessarily loves to do. They like to build fast bikes for racers and off-road bikes. So product-centric company. So that's product-centric, and you can be product-centric like the bike company, but also these are news organizations where the editorial team just wants to write whatever articles are kind of interesting and meaningful for them to write, as opposed to thinking about who's willing to pay for it, or who's willing to advertise against it. And it's true for professional services provider, healthcare providers, coaches, anybody that works in that field that's like, I do this process my way. And if you don't fit into the product, then go somewhere else. I do surgeries on this kind, or I do this kind of, and the rest of it, it's not my department. It's a very product-centric mindset as opposed to customer-centric, where you say, okay, this person is coming in because I am a part of this much bigger journey they're on. How do I recognize where they are and make it as easy as possible for them to achieve their goals, and maybe even expand a little bit on both ends to provide more value beyond the product itself? That's where, you might offer service afterwards. That's where checkups come in. That's where, focusing on, you saying, I'm focused on helping my clients increase their revenue. Right. And part of how I do it is through coaching, and part of it is through this podcast, and part of it is through introductions to potential clients that I happen to know. I'm doing everything I can to help my clients achieve their goal. That's customer centric.
One of the things, and that reminds me, one of the things that I just helped one of our new clients with, and he does very high-end cosmetic dental work. And it's a combination of dentist, like restorative and cosmetic spa rejuvenation. But one of the things that I did for him is I wrote him a sales letter, i.e. free report, on how to increase your confidence and how to actually do better in job interviews, because a lot of the people that either come in And I think we're going to work on another one where it helps people in relationships and having more confidence, because a lot of his patients that want this have either gone through a recent divorce. A lot of them are women. And a lot of people want to get the dental work done because they're looking for, and this of course is prior to this whole coronavirus thing we're going to get through, and we will get through it, but they wanted to get a better paying job or the dream job. And so he's not only talking to them about improving their smile, he's giving them a resource to help them improve their chances to get a job. Now that's a dentist who went out and found someone who, which was me, who in turn went out and found someone who had put together a great resource that would help people to do better and perform better during job interviews and the application process. And I learned that from you know who, from you. And so hopefully that fits in the model of the customer.
I love it. It's exactly right. Because, so many, back to this product thing, so many product people are justifiably and understandably proud of their product, right? My dentistry, my practice, my approach, my newspaper, my writing, and they sort of forget that it's just a small piece of the customer's bigger goal.
Absolutely.
And it can be as simple as changing, what I think of as the packaging around the product. So, yes, I'm giving you the same service, the same experience, the same product on your mouth. But what I'm talking about is how this is going to help you achieve your goals. That's like step one. Step two is, and here's some additional value that will take you down that path of achieving that goal, which is what you provided, which is so great.
Yeah, people love it. Yeah, people love it. So Robbie, in the book you ask a really important question, and this is a question that I think everybody's asking: are you ready for forever? And so I want you to talk about that and like the process and the most important questions that business owners should be asking themselves. So take 2 or 3, 4 minutes, whatever you need, to answer that question. So how do people know if they're actually ready, and what are the questions they should be asking themselves to start down the road of incorporating this into their business?
Yeah, if you're just getting started, the first things to ask yourself is, do I have a business that lends itself to a membership economy model? And as we discussed earlier, that means you have your ideal customer who they are, has other choices, number one, and number two, they have a bigger long-term goal. They have a long-term need for what you're providing, ongoing need. So if you sell fish at the market each day, right off your fishing boat, and you sell them at market prices, maybe this isn't for you. If you have right now a patent advantage, a regulatory advantage, a geographic advantage, last gas for 100 miles, your customer has no choices and they're never going to see you again. So you don't have to listen any further. But if you're the kind of business where it's ongoing and your customer has choices, that's the first piece. From that point, you have to kind of look inward and decide if you're ready to go down this path. It requires a lot of change in the way that you think about your customers, in the way that you structure your customer experience, and maybe even, as we discussed, in the way that you think about what your product is. So you have to be ready for some change, willing to experiment, willing to focus, and you have to prioritize the long term over the short term. So if you work for somebody else and you have a big bonus based on your quarterly goals, you're probably not going to be very motivated to invest in the long term for this business. But for those of you who work, who own your own business, who run the show, family-run business, it makes a lot of sense to build something that's resilient and that's going to last a while. So I think that those are some of the key things to think about before you even ask yourself, what is the forever promise I want to make with my customers? What would be the minimum viable product that I could build out so that I could test some kind of an ongoing relationship? And what are the hypotheses that are most important for me to get answered before I kind of bet the whole business on it?
Okay. And so whether it's a person who's brand new and they haven't incorporated this into their business framework, or let's say maybe they have started the membership model in their business, kind of got their feet wet, they're really not sure how it's going to work yet, or maybe they've actually had some success with it. Is there a particular plan that they should follow so they can know that it's going to work for them? And so that you can know that you've set the process or you're setting the process up properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I always encourage anybody that's getting started on this path to do two things, right? One of them is get really clear on your vision, your North Star, where you're going. In 5 years, my business will be like this. There will be a world where, you know, and that's kind of your North Star. So for Amazon, for Jeff Bezos, it was, there is a world where people barely even have to think of something that they might want. And boom, it's there. There is no friction in the process of getting exactly the product you need when you need it. That was his vision. And then the second step is you go all the way back to the beginning and you say, what is the most important thing for me to learn or for me to prove before I invest fully in that visionary goal, right? So, you know, that's what I want to do. I can't do all of that today. Why not? You write a long list of things. These are all the things I have to do before I'm comfortable doing that. You split that into two parts, the learning and the leverage. Leverage is what you need to be able to show to somebody else so that they will support your efforts or they won't tank your efforts. This is what you need. I need some leverage so that I can go talk to my partner and they will, you know, support me in this new model, or my resellers or my distributors or my boss will give me more money so that I can do more. That's all for leverage. Those are proof points for leverage. Proof points for learning are the ones where, as you know, a business owner, you're like, I'm not quite ready to bet my very well running company on this idea. I want to do a small experiment first. I want to see if customers behave a certain way. I want to understand how they use my services, because I want to see how many people are edge cases that, you know, are very heavy users that I lose money on. You want to figure out what all those things are right at the beginning, and then figure out what are the most important ones to test first, and what is the smallest, most discreet way I can start getting answers.
And I'll just say this, just to be clear, guys, she covers this in tremendous detail in the book. What is the book, like 15, 16, 20 bucks? I mean, this is a no-brainer, guys. Again, I'm guaranteeing the book. If you want literally a master class in how to implement this and to determine if this is right for you, buy the book, and you have to pre-order it. When does it launch? You said the first week of April?
Yes, the book launches the first week of April. It launches on Kindle in mid to late March.
Okay, so it should, well,
It's
maybe it's
already
on my,
available. Yep.
I already paid for it, so I got your copy, but now I got the copy I can put on my Kindle. It's a little harder to read that PDF. I can't highlight, you know, the copy you gave me, obviously, probably so nobody like copies it and does anything bad with it. But yeah, I'll have to download it on my Kindle now. But anyway, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about benefits. So there's a couple different groups of people who are benefiting from the Forever transaction. The first group I want to talk about are the clients, customers, or patients. How does this model benefit them? Because obviously they're not going to want to participate if there aren't inherent benefits in the Forever transaction, which there are many.
Yeah. So the great thing about a subscription is your problem is solved and you don't have to look for alternatives. You don't have to, you know, you talked earlier about how people don't like to be sold to. For a lot of people, shopping, buying, implementing is not fun, tiring. So to have that decision made for you and to not have to worry is really valuable. So if I have Spotify with every song that I could possibly want to listen to, and I know that the price is fixed, frankly, the price is fixed for me and my husband and our 3 kids, because we have a family plan. I don't have to worry about, you know, the spend running up. And I know whenever I want music, I can get it. So it's really about that certainty, access, and a lot of times it's cost savings. If you're, you know, subscribing and committing for the long term, you pay less. So there's a lot of value. There's a trusted relationship where somebody's actually getting to know your preferences. You know, people ask me a lot about privacy, and you know, we all know the downside of being known, which is, you know, people have your data and they can be bad actors and take advantage of you. The good side of people knowing you is that they know you. They present you with offers and things that are relevant to you. They understand your point of view, your values, and it's a lot easier to do business with someone who knows you. So great potential benefits for the customer, the patient, the client.
Yeah. So Robbie, you cut out just a little bit, but just again, real quick, just rehearse that last line where talking about the benefits to let's say the patients or the clients or the customers, the vendor, the dentist, the consultant, the chiropractor, the business owner gets to know by design their client, customer, patient better. And so they're offering customized opportunities for their particular client, customer, patient that are going to be appealing to those people. And so that's where the trust factor comes in. Is that what you just said? Because you cut out a little bit at that the last 10 seconds.
Absolutely. The benefit of being known, we know that the downside of giving up your privacy and the risk of bad actors taking advantage. But the reason that we continue to share about ourselves is to be known. And if your vendor knows you, your dentist, your coach, your merchant, if they know you, they can optimize, customize for your needs. They understand your philosophy, your point of view, your budget, and they can make recommendations that are actually going to solve your unique problem. So there's a tremendous advantage for a customer in a subscription model if the vendor on the other side is truly focused on treating that person like a member.
Okay. And so now let's juxtapose that and flip the coin. What are the benefits or some of the benefits as a business owner? And I mean, I know them because I don't know them all, but why would I, the business owner, want the forever transaction in my business? What are the benefits to me?
Well, the holy grail for business owners is recurring, predictable revenue, right? It allows you to manage cash flow, pay your team, pay your bills, all of that. It allows you to invest more thoughtfully. If you come time to sell your business, you get a much higher valuation if you have a recurring revenue business than if you have a less predictable, more transactionally oriented business. And as we just discussed, having that member relationship with your customer, that direct relationship, gives you so much more insight on the people you serve and allows you to continue to evolve and iterate on your offerings for them. So it allows you to kind of protect yourself from disruption, whether that be from competitors or from outside events in the world. You really understand the people you're serving, which allows you to be a lot more nimble.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Do you have time to talk about maybe one or two case studies, kind of a synopsis version? Sure. Okay. Sure. From the book?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you want to talk about?
Pick a couple that you think are relevant.
Yeah. So one I'm going to talk about is a little different is Our Shelves, which is a book subscription for children. This was created by a mom who was, when she had kids, was disappointed that there weren't more books that showed diverse families. Not every family is a mom and a dad, a child. There's all kinds of families. And so she started collecting different books and offering them, as a subscription box. And what I think is really important for people to learn from this is that she started on her kitchen table. She had no outside funding. She didn't have any technical expertise, but she saw this need, which is families that need diverse ideas of what family means. And she just started with that goal in mind, same goal as she had for her own family. And, I can give you lots of details, but, it grew incredibly fast. I think she's gotten requests from like 27 countries already.
That's awesome.
She's able to bootstrap. And what's really interesting is that she has this vision for a world where there are more diverse images of families in children's books. Right now, what she's doing is she's aggregating other people's books, but she's already talking to authors, publishers, showing them the interest that she's getting from her members, who she knows really well, to actually begin to drive their selection of new books.
So kind of like the model Audible uses when they have authors who have done specific works, and then they say, okay, well, we have this great market where you could sell a ton of audiobooks, and then they have it that is dedicated and only uniquely available at Audible. You have a book that you can't get anywhere else. It's not in print. It's only on Audible. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Bringing those
exactly. Exactly. Or like Netflix, for many years, they were just sharing, content created by others, but they were learning so much about how you and I actually watch TV at home in the privacy of our own homes. And they know that really we're all just watching Adam Sandler movies all day long. And that's why they've locked in Adam Sandler for more movies, because they understood that there are some movies that you see in the theaters, but when you're watching at home, your behavior is really different. And they optimize new content, new titles, specifically based on how their viewers were consuming content. So, I think Our Shelves is a really good example of both of how those kind of, people are always like, but Amazon, but Netflix, but Spotify, but Audible, they're so big and I can't do that. But many of those organizations started out on someone's kitchen table. You don't have to start big to end up big.
Guys, if a guy like me can run a membership and do well with it, and I owe a lot of credit, I owe a lot of credit to Robbie and her work. And one of the benefits for me, I'll just say it outright. Sometimes I have people on my show because I can avoid paying $10,000 for, a consult or 5 or whatever. So I have them on the show. But that wasn't why I had you on the show. I just had you on the show the first time because I got so much out of your book. And like I said, had I had your book back when I was in practice, I would have made millions of more dollars. But are there any trends, Robbie, that you see right now in the forever transaction in the membership economy? Are there any trends that we should be aware of, or ones that you think are important to take note of?
I think the most important one, I think for this audience, for your people, is it's global. That membership is global, that consumers and businesses around the world are familiar with subscriptions. So 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was working with Netflix, some countries weren't ready for subscription businesses. They didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the culture of trust. They were cash driven, what have you. They didn't have the tech infrastructure. So for people listening right now, one of the great benefits to coming up with a model that has a big digital component, whether that's about, advice, sharing your expertise, your insights, you can do that globally at pretty much the same costs to you as being local. So understanding that, I think, is probably the most valuable thing that you can focus on.
And you go into a lot of this in great detail in the book, and it's a great read. This, I will say this, sometimes you'll pick up a book that's got great information and actually literally shows you what to do, but it's hard to read. I didn't find it all. I found myself going through your book, and I'm an avid reader, so I guess I'm not like everybody. I read a couple books a week as an average, sometimes 3. But I have to say that I found myself, as I got later in the book, it got a little more difficult, only because I'm like, well, this is stuff I have to implement. And since I'm not actually implementing this high level stuff at this point, I got to come back to this. But as far as reading through the book, man, I was sucked right into the book. So it's, you definitely have a talent for writing, which is good. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. The first question has to do with just a question. The second one is about the book. How do we get the book? What's the best way to get the book? Whether you want us to go directly to Amazon and so on and so forth. And then any links or anything like that you want to give. But and definitely want to talk about the membership manifesto one more time in addition to your book. But what's the one question today, Robbie, that I should have asked you that I did not ask?
Well, first of all, you're a phenomenal interviewer, and I'm not just saying that. You're so
Thanks.
Prepared, and you really understand the work I'm doing and ask good questions. So I'm not sure there's anything that you missed, but if there's something that's helpful to you that you want to ask, I'd be delighted to go into that.
Well, let's do that after. What I want to do, I will ask you that once we're done, because I want to get your feedback. What's it for you? Like I told you before we started actually the show, getting testimonials from people on video, getting their feedback, and there's an art to this. And actually, I put together a training program as part of a new class I'm going to be promoting. I'm going to just give you that. So you're going to, if you want to learn how to get outcome-based, powerful, social proof testimonials you can use to get more clients and share your work more with people. There's a way to do that, and I learned a lot of this from Bob Cialdini.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to give you that.
I
But
would love that.
one of the things, and
Thank you.
I don't, oh, you're welcome. I don't know why you've helped me so much. You have no idea. But one of the things that I should have been doing a long time ago that I do with my clients, like my real clients, but I haven't done with my podcast guests, is I want to get their feedback so that I can, first of all, learn what I can do better on my show, how I can better serve them. And obviously the first people I want to serve on the show are the members of the Get Clients Now Nation. But once I know my guest is delivering high quality content like you do consistently, then it's about my guest and how can I serve my guest and make this really work for them. And so from the standpoint of being a guest on the show, if you had 10 or 15 seconds, if somebody said, hey, what do you think about me being a guest on the show? I know you were on the show. What would you say to them? Would you recommend being on the show? What was your experience like? And, what do you think of the podcast? That's all I would ask.
Wow. Well, thanks for asking. So first of all, when I'm a pretty analytical person, so I think about, when somebody asks me for a recommendation, I always try to break it down to, what are they asking for? Sort of like, if somebody said, is this a good restaurant? I'm like, well, it depends. What are you going for? It's great for this situation and that situation. So for you, if somebody said, hey, Robbie, should I be on Ken's show? I would say, well, first of all, as a show, it's incredibly well run. So, you'll be prepared. The quality is good. The sound, the questions, he's super prepared, asks good questions, puts you in the best possible light. So that is all great. I think a second question is it relevant to his audience? Because it can be really tempting when you're invited to be on a show, to just do it. And sometimes I've done hundreds of interviews. Sometimes you're on the show and you're like, why did they invite me on this? I'm not exactly sure how I can help this particular audience. And of course we try our best, but I would say, do you think that you can offer value to small business owners, medium business owners that are trying to grow their business, particularly around, acquisition, engagement, retention of customers? And if they are, I would say, absolutely, you want to be on his show. And by the way, see if he'll give you access to his new course on how to get testimonials that are video that are really good.
Well, you're going to be one of the handful of people that gets that for free. Everybody else is going to pay for it because it's worth the free portion.
I know.
The free portion I give away literally is I re-recorded it, I redid it, but the free part I'm giving away is literally the course that I sold for a long time for $9.97. So there's tremendous, real tremendous value in the free part, but I'm going to give you access to that. And also like the actual, like super high level stuff. And I know you're busy, so it'll all be digital. You can attend that just whenever you make the time for it. But what do you want as far as people listening today? Obviously we want to get the book. So what's the best way? I just interviewed Frank Soma on the show a little while ago, earlier this morning. And he wanted people to not go to Amazon. He wanted the people to go to the website, and he offered them a discount. I'm not, obviously no discounts on this book. You got my guarantee. It's underpriced as it is, but what's the best way for us to get your book, The Forever Transaction? Robbie, what would you say?
Well, the best way is whatever's best for the listeners. Amazon obviously has the Kindle version and will have the print version shortly, and the Audible version as well shortly.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So the Audible version, I've been back and forth with Caroline, who's doing the recording for me. I'm glad to have a woman this time instead of a man, although he did a great job as well. But Caroline's recording it this week, so it should be out shortly. But given the time that we're in, if you can support your local bookstore, it should be wherever books are sold. You can always call them and ask them to order it for you. So that's just a little plug for all of our local booksellers. Amazon's great. Barnes & Noble's great as well. But, now is the time.
They're doing fine.
Yeah.
Now's the time to support the small
Amazon's hiring like crazy right now.
Yeah. Eventually he's going to own half the United States, if not more. I don't know, a country, who knows?
I know.
Hey, listen, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Ken.
Thanks for, you deliver such high quality content, and hopefully you'll come back again. Hopefully you don't wait quite so long. Now, thankfully, I interviewed you after your book had been out for a little while the first time, but this one isn't out yet. But yes, let's stay in touch, because the work you do is it's phenomenal. And if I can get you on other shows, you can email me and let me know, and I'll try to hook you up with some other people. The Business of Story is another really good podcast. And I think I would like to try to hook you up. He was a guest on my show. I'd like to try to connect you as well
Awesome.
with his show. It's more about storytelling and things like that, but I still think this is relevant to the type of businesses that he's working with. So
Yeah.
maybe you can give him some pointers or something while you're on the show. But anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll shoot you a link to the show if you want to share it on social. That'd be great. And
Yeah, definitely.
you said the first week of April.
Yes.
Perfect. I'll make it happen, and I'll be in
Okay.
touch. Thank
Awesome.
you, Robbie.
Thanks. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.